Hello and welcome to What the Lux with me, Fred Moore.
And me, Anant Sharma.
Together we lead Matterform, a design consultancy specialising in brand, digital experience and content. And this is a podcast that calls time on tired ideas of luxury.
Alongside industry luminaries and thought leaders, we explore what truly defines category-leading products and services. It gives me great pleasure to be in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale specifically, interviewing Jessica Hoppe, who is the lady I think with probably the most enviable job title in the world. Jessica is president and CEO of the world.
The entire world.
The entire world. Jessica, can you just bring that to life? What does that mean?
Right. Well, first, thanks for having me. It's so great to host you here in our city. So the world is actually, although I do like the moniker, it is not the entire world. And right now, I probably don't want responsibility for the entire world. But the world as we know it is the only residential ship that is sailing on the earth right now.
It's kind of wild. Like, I just wasn't aware that this was a category that existed even.
Right. I think some people, and you probably know that there are individuals that go on long, cruises, right? But for our residents, this is actually their home. So when they come aboard, they are welcomed by our crew who know them and know all of their preferences, and they are really coming home. And then they get to sail to all the ports around the world. We have gone to over 1,000 ports. We like to say that we circumnavigate the world every 3 years. And so when you come home to the world, your home that day might be London, or perhaps it's Dubai, or perhaps it's, a little bit more off the beaten path, St. Helena, for example. But wherever we are, you are home.
How long does it stop when it stops?
So we are usually in port approximately 3 days. So, our residents really want to experience the culture, really immerse themselves in a location. We are in port more often than we are at sea, actually, and that makes us very unique as well. So we really want to explore an area. We provide our residents with experiences, destination experiences, very unique opportunities to either, go in depth into a restaurant or in depth into an experience that is on land. And then also there can be jumping off points for what we call overland journeys, which are 2 to 3 day journeys into a particular region or country to experience it, and then they rejoin the ship.
Hang on, so you are continuously planning the itineraries for, I was going to say your guests, for your residents.
For our residents, and they help us plan it. So as the management company for the world, we work with them hand in glove to set out our itineraries 2 years in advance. And then 1 year in advance, we set forth all of the ports that we're going to visit for the coming year. So you can sit and decide which areas you're going to come to, or perhaps which areas you would like to spend in your other homes around the world.
And what type of properties are there on ship?
So we have anything from what you might consider a studio, so a smaller room or a smaller apartment rather, all the way up to an apartment that would be around 3,000 square feet. So it would have its own kitchen, its own living room, library, bedrooms. So truly a home. We have residents that you may not see. We have restaurants on board, of course, but you have residents that might want to cook for themselves or have breakfast in their own apartment on their balcony, have their coffee, and then come down, enjoy a lecture, go to the spa, then head out for the day to do whatever they might want to do in the location that we're currently visiting.
And we're talking like homes, they've got like kitchens, people are cooking for themselves. You're not like living in a hotel. You're
correct. You are home.
You're home.
When you travel to,
you have guests over and things like that.
Exactly. They will host their friends over for cocktail parties or for dinners. They may have the chefs come into their home to actually prepare a meal if they're not preparing it themselves. We have many residents who actually really love to cook, and what an opportunity that they get to sail around the world, and then they can go shopping in the marketplaces where they can truly buy the spices and the ingredients that are native to those locations and then cook a dish.
What are the social dynamics like when you live together on board a vessel?
So our community is really strong. There are a number of different clubs. There are the golfers. We have a PGA pro who is always on board. So there are these different communities within the community. So you have the book clubs, and we actually have two book clubs. So there's one scientific book club, and then there's a book club just for those that want to read other books. There are the individuals that like to play bridge. We have a vibrant poker community. We have the pickleball players. So all of these different communities within the community, but they all come together for the love of the ship and the love of travel. But we always say, and they tell us, that they came because they liked the idea of having the home and travel the world, but they stay because of the community.
What's the age demographic?
So we have really seen, a varying age. I think in the past, the age trended perhaps a little bit older, but what we're seeing now is, and where you're probably seeing all around the world, you're seeing individuals make exits out of their businesses when they're younger. And also on board our vessel, we have Starlink, and so we have individuals that aren't fully retired, for example. They're still operating their businesses, and they can because we have internet connectivity all around the world. And so they're connected. We have families now, and their children are actually doing homeschooling, be it
Really? That's interesting.
yeah, it's really great.
Like how old?
So
Or like, let me put it another way. How young is the youngest
um
family?
so the families, now they've been younger than 5 we've
Right.
had on board. It's been a wonderful experience.
Are you a resident of a country when your permanent address?
So you are. I mean,
Okay.
let me say this. We leave it up to our residents to decide how they want to handle their residency status. But in a technical basis, you are a floating part of the Bahamas, but you cannot obtain Bahamian residency by purchasing aboard our vessel.
It's getting quite weird, the notion of residency and identity and where you believe you belong in a world that's become very borderless
Very fluid, right?
and
Yeah.
very fluid.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you just talk us through like how this started and whose idea it was and how it came to life? And just so many questions about, bringing this a residential, never ending
Yeah.
sail around the world is a big idea. It's a big concept. And
Yeah.
how did it kick off?
So it originally kicked off in Norway, and the ship launched in 2002. And it was always meant to be a residential ship, although part of the model was to have also cruise passengers. And the idea was that the revenue from the cruise passengers would assist in the annual maintenance for the residents who would live on board. But it had always been envisioned as being a residential ship that would sail around the world. And then, as happens with many businesses, it turned that wasn't a successful model. The residents who had already purchased then decided to purchase the vessel themselves and take the remaining units that had not been sold and then sell those to other individuals. And so after a period of years, they had completely sold out, and that is the model that we're currently sailing under.
What's the resale kind of situation? Is it, I presume there's quite a strong community of residents who ultimately moves in. It's almost your community is in a community that small, but also that modular. You are the sum of your people.
It's really true. And, and obviously the individuals select to come, and there's referrals from other individuals. And so they arrive, and, we have some people that purchase sight unseen. We have others that come and sail with us as prospective residents and fall in love with it. We have other residents that sail as guests and then fall in love with it and decide this is really where I want to be. And many of them, meet other residents on board, have a really strong connection, and say, this is really where I want to spend my time.
What do you think are the sort of defining characteristics of a resident?
I don't know if you could say there's one defining characteristic. The individuals are always highly successful, highly motivated individuals who do love travel. They have really varied interests, and I think that is what it makes it so unique. We have individuals from all around the world, and they obviously all love to travel, but their interests are really varied. They bring a vibrancy to the community and just all of their varied interest, and our crew add to that, right? Our crew really are part of the community. And you will have residents who have been on board for 20 years, And we have crew that have been on for a similar period of time, and they know each other so well. They know each other's families. They've seen each other's families grow up. The residents will bring their children on board, and now they see the grandchildren coming on board. So it really is very special.
Okay, personalization. So what happens if someone wants to redecorate their apartment?
Great question. So we have dry docks. So if you really want to do a full renovation, you can. You can take it down to the bulkhead and you can build it back up. We work with a great team of designers who they build beautiful apartments. I mean, when I tell you that these apartments are just incredibly gorgeous and they are very creative in what they do. But we also have 2 periods a year where we call them refurbishment time slots. And then there are areas where you could replace carpet, you could do painting and other, maybe not so invasive repairs. But yes, we always allow that. So if a resident comes on board and they decide, I love this apartment, but I want to change XYZ, you can do that and we'll make that happen for you.
But sorry, can you just bring that to, you said you take it out. Is that what you said?
Well, you can strip it out, right?
Yeah.
You could strip, if you wanted to redo an entire apartment, you could, in fact, bring it all the way down and then build it all the way back up.
That's so nuts, and without causing disruption.
In a dry dock, you could do that.
In a dry dock.
Yeah. So dry dock really is literally we lift the ship out of the water and we're doing massive repairs. None of our residents would be on board during that time. It would just be our crew and then our contractors who would be on board.
Okay, sorry. How often does that happen?
So it happens every 3 years.
Every 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you basically have the opportunity to do a bit of a refurb to make sure you stand out from the Joneses once every 3 years.
You do, and every year you could always do light refurbishments.
So the world, it's been sailing around the world since 2002, stopping every 3 years, being lifted out of the water and being renovated and repaired. How has the vision for residential yachting changed? Because you pioneered this category. I still don't think there's anyone in the category, unless I'm mistaken.
No, you're correct. We're the only residential ship that is currently sailing. So we like to say, we're in competition with ourselves.
Who's the figurehead? Was there like a figurehead behind the business? Was it a business concept or was it a passion project?
I think it was a little bit of both, right? And I think it was definitely the vision that individuals would love to live aboard a beautiful vessel and sail around the world.
It seems kind of wild that it's a big concept. Clearly it's working.
Yeah.
Why are there no other entrants to the category?
It's a great question. There's obviously a lot of barriers to entry, and to run a vessel takes a lot of organization and a lot of management. Even think of individuals who have their private yachts, right? And we've had residents who have had their private yachts and have come and been with us, and they just find that it's easier to let us worry about all of the details. Worry about bunkering, getting fuel, right? Worry about the dry docks, the repairs, getting the crew, making sure that you have the right captains on board, making sure that the itineraries are set and that the regulations are all smooth and that you're in compliance with everything and all of the inspections. That is a lot of work and effort, and it is no small feat to get that prepared and off the ground and launched.
How did you end up doing what you're doing?
So I have a little bit of a non-traditional story. I've been trained as a lawyer, and I was working in a large law firm in New York City, and then I went with a company that was in hospitality, and that really kind of kicked it off. That company then purchased Crystal Cruise Lines, and so I was able to launch into the world of cruising, which was, a beautiful product and great people. As you know, Miami is the headquarters of cruise. So a lot of the industry is here. I was able to meet a lot of interesting people, get to know the industry really from ground up and building on the hospitality portion of it. And then I came to the world and
Not laugh.
Yeah. So it's
interesting. So was it intentional? Was it sliding doors?
I think it's Steve Jobs who said, if you look back on your life, you see dots and you see the connection, you see the pattern.
Yeah.
But while you're in it, you can't really see it. So I would say it was intentional. I always wanted to be on the operational side, being a lawyer and in the meetings.
It's a big category jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I
fell into hospitality by accident.
Did you?
Also.
Okay.
I think providing other people the point of inspiration on what it takes to change careers, we can be a bit golden handcuffed sometimes. I think obviously being a lawyer in New York City, you're kind of making a sacrifice by changing. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think it's. Look, everything is always the way you view it, of course, but I think in a sense, they're both service industries, right?
Yeah.
And as a lawyer, you're really seeing you're seeing operational decisions, you're seeing some of the strategy decisions, and you're able to give counsel as to what would be the best thing to do, but you're never going to be really the decision maker. And I think that's where I felt, I was sitting on the sidelines and I really wanted to be into the strategy decisions, making those operational decisions.
So what do you think of these? There are some like neo-residential vessels like the Ulysses. What's your view on those entrants?
I think it's really exciting of what could come to fruition. It's really beautiful to see the designs. And, I think for us, we are definitely focused on what's to come and sustainability efforts and technology and what will happen over the next, 5 years. I think, we see technology making just like these big leaps and bounds. So I think it's great to see new designs. And I think it's great for us to think what we can incorporate into our planned upgrades that we make to our ship and that what we can offer to our residents.
Do you think it's like a robust category? Do you think it would work if there was a tier down?
It's a really interesting concept. I can't necessarily say because everything about it would be vastly different from what we offer. And of course, you have to think about, just what your model would look like as far as your food and beverage and what level you'd be offering your residents and what it kind of looks like. And obviously, there's been, different models that have been offered out there. And, when we see one of them come out, I think I'd have a better idea of that. But our model is working great for us.
So with these obviously pretty high net worth, probably ultra high net worth individuals in most cases, although the apartments they're not that expensive. They're sort of between 5 and 25 million.
So it depends. I think we're now 2.5 to 15 million is our range.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So roughly, they're expensive.
They're expensive. Yeah.
But they're also, we're talking like New York real estate. In a way. I mean, they're not that expensive.
The value proposition for the world. And of course, they're like New York real estate, there's going to be an annual maintenance cost, of course, right? For fuel,
Yeah.
the personnel, et cetera, right? There's all of those annual costs that are also in there. But the value proposition is you're not just getting New York real estate, you're getting your community, you're getting
We're getting loads more than
loads
rel-
more. You're getting like the ultimate club of, your doctor of choice, your spa, your golf pro, your tennis pro, your, pickleball pro who, are there. You're getting your program team who are bringing you world-class lecturers on board, bringing you entertainers on board. So it's beyond just a simple place to live, right? We're offering a true community that is connected to one another. You asked about the age demographic. One of the things that I see on board personally, and my parents are in their 80s now, but I see our residents who might be in a similar category, and they are so fit and vibrant and lively. And part of that is because their social network is really built in, but they also stay just incredibly fit. We have a physiologist on board, we have a fitness specialist who's also there. So they work on, all of like the well-being of our individuals. Longevity, I'm sure some of your
Yeah.
guests have talked about it. Obviously a big focus, right? And our residents, are not accepted from that. And so they can have balance classes, they can go have their massage, they can have the physiology, then they can go do a fitness walk off the ship.
Yeah, so I was going to ask a question that's sort of related to how you manage the community. Like how hands-on are you managing the community? How in and out are people? What's the sort of ratio of people who are like really just there versus those who use it a little bit like a hotel?
So, I guess to your first question, when I became CEO, one of the first thing I did was to really strengthen the connection between the ship and shore and to the office of the CEO with the residents, as well as the team on board, because I think that really is the lifeblood. I know that in a hotel, you have the general manager that is going to be there. We also have general managers on board,
Okay.
and they are, really terrific. They've been with us and they are, the lifeblood, right? Again, the crew is just like so close. But for me, I like to go to the ship at least quarterly and usually more frequently. We were talking, the ship was, far and away last year. So the long haul flights for me, which I enjoy, were not an issue.
That's discussed.
Yes, as discussed. But going to the ship is always really special, and meeting the residents.
Where do you stay when you're on the ship?
So well, the company actually owns 4 apartments. And so that is usually where I will stay in one of those apartments. But as far as our residents coming and going, there are always life events that happen for individuals. And if they decide that they will leave the community, and that happens from time to time, and then we, as a management company, we help to remarket.
Do you have
the
like massive parties on the ship where like everyone, like what do you do on like, it's been going 2002. Is that when it's been going since?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, presumably it's like December the 31st and there's like a big party on the ship, or like everyone must get quite involved. Those
They
things bring
do.
the community together.
Oh, they have a great time. So in 2024, the ship was in Antarctica for New Year's Eve,
Awesome.
which is incredible, right?
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I mean, our team is able to both our programming.
So it can go to Antarctica. It can really go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it really competes with proper adventure cruising.
It's what we are able to do for our residents is, I would say, nothing short of amazing. And I think many of them would agree, right? We have gone on expeditions to the Kimberleys, Papua New Guinea, the Northwest Passage. So really, as far flung as some of these very specific expedition companies have gone, we've done that.
What's the funniest thing that's happened?
I mean, it's a long list probably, but let me see some special things that have happened,
Okay.
right? We were out in Antarctica, and our program team was delivering hot chocolate and champagne to our residents who were, on a Zodiac cruise, looking at the wildlife. I mean, it's just the special experiences, I think, are really, incredible. When the ship has passed over the equator, we have a party. So King Neptune will come. People can kiss a fish. We actually had one instance where the residents were able to swim across the equator, and they saw a pod of dolphins, and it was as if it had come, just to, fruition, right? That they were supposed to be there at that time.
What is success for you? Like, what does good look like? Because, you're running an organization that's unique, a business that's unique. You sold the apartments.
Yes.
You have an operational crew, and presumably one of the things you need to do is make sure that people feel that, things are on the up, that you have increasingly interesting itineraries. Well, I guess maybe that's one of the challenges, which is, how much the world is left unexplored. But what is good? Like, how do you build the business?
So we continually set our goals every year, right? And so we're measuring ourselves against what we did the last year. But good for us, and particularly good for me when I think about it, is I have a healthy team, meaning I have happy employees. I literally have healthy crew members on board, and I have individuals that want to keep coming back to us, right? Our retention rate is extremely high, and we pride ourselves on that. We are a great company to work for, and we want to continue with that. As far as the residents are concerned, that their retention and happy crew, happy employees, it feeds right into them directly. They, on board, they live together. The team here supports the team on board, so they support the residents. And for the residents, when they tell us, and we see it in the comments, last night was perfection, right? And that's what we're going for. We want them to feel that of all the places on earth that they could spend their time, that they will spend it with us.
How do you interface with them? And what is your role in that point of interface as CEO? How do you get together with them?
So in a variety of different ways. So, we have quarterly newsletters, which is your most basic form of communication. But when I go onto the ship, I meet with residents. I interface with our board of directors who are also residents. And after every board meeting, we will have a town hall. I will speak at the town hall, answer questions from any of the residents that are there. I have residents that contact me directly. I'm always available to them.
What was your first town hall like when you were made CEO? Was it a bit nerve-wracking?
It can be an intimidating bunch, right? These are highly successful individuals. Either they are still very successful in whatever business they're carrying on, or they were very successful entrepreneurs or titans of their industry and being there. So of course, and they have very high expectations, as they should, right? They should have very high expectations. And my job is to live up to those and surpass it, right? We want to deliver to them something they can't deliver. So the first town hall was probably a little nerve-wracking, but in a really exciting way.
How does everyone collaborate to vote on what the itineraries are?
So,
Because,
yeah.
yeah, it's a key part of how the experience plays out. I mean, it's quite fun, I presume, but is it like gamified? Is it, how do people, is it,
I can only imagine what you're imagining.
it's like going to the bingo hall? No, I'm not imagining that, joking, but do you know what I mean? Is it,
Yeah,
how does it work?
so first of all, I mean, we do a survey, and so we ask our residents, where would they like to go? Where have you been? Where have we gone that you would like to go again? Do you want to go to off the beaten path? You want to go to highly developed areas? And then our captains, our team from Florida, we get together and we plan some very beautiful itineraries. And then we work with a resident committee called the Itinerary Committee, and we review what our high level overview is of where we would go next. So we look at where we've been and we look at
Yeah.
where we go. And then we bring that to the community. They get to take a vote on those high level options. And then we take it back sort of to the drawing board.
What's that like? Is that a big presentation to everyone?
It
Where you've
is.
got beautiful imagery of, the most well shot imagery of some of the most gorgeous places in the world.
That's right. And we tell you, have we been there before? When was the last time we were there?
That's going to happen in 2 years.
Correct.
Wild.
And we tell them, look, these are some of the experiences that we can provide while we are there in these areas. This is what the weather will be like when we're in this area. And then we set that forth. And then once that vote is concluded, then we get to work on the day by day and really setting forth of, this is where we're going to be on May 26th. This is, we'll spend 3 days in this port, and then it will take us this long to get to this next location. And, oh, this is a new maiden port. We're going to go here. And our captains are from England and from Norway. And so, our captain will tell us, look, I know we should go here. We should go here. Or, I remember that the ship was here. And so we play on all of that, historical information and personal experience and come up with just a really beautiful itinerary.
You started by saying we have a questionnaire.
Yes.
How would you could you make the process more magical?
The survey process or the itinerary.
The whole thing, because I don't know, there's a quote that always stands out to me from Margot Robbie of all people, and it's like the anticipation of a thing is more important than the thing itself, and that is a really, really exciting design process, where people aren't just designing what they're going to do or being inspired by, National Geographic and slides, but rather that's their life. That's what's going to happen in my life in 2 years. I mean, it's a really personal and quite emotional and inspiring and sort of quite unusual thing to do, which is to decide what your life looks like in 2 years.
100%. However, there are some of our residents that will say, I don't actually care where the ship goes.
Really?
I'm just happy to be on the ship. And I'm sure wherever we go is going to be wonderful. Yeah. Because it's really their home. So wherever it goes.
How many people are on the ship? How many residents are there?
So we have approximately 300 residents.
300. And then what's the ratio of how many people are there at any given time? Roughly.
Well, roughly, let's say, because it does vary from, time to time, but let's say 190 or so. Yeah.
So 2/3.
Yeah.
Significant amount. I thought you were going to come in at under a half.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Is there like a requirement for how long you need to be on the ship to be classified as resident?
No, we don't force anyone to stay. We just want them to stay with us. But we do have some residents that live with us year round.
100 and 200 people on the ship, like even call it half, 150, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Presumably for people who've got the wealth to have a couple of other houses, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Or do they have a couple of other houses? Or
many of them do, and some have decided that the world will be their primary.
Are there some people who've really stretched? It's like, this is like, for most people, is this just a sort of, the expense is almost a bit of an irrelevance. And there's some people where it really is a life dream and they've put everything into living in the world.
I think for most individuals, and recognizing, of course, that there is an annual cost, I think that for most of them, it's a comfortable lifestyle.
A comfortable lifestyle, yeah. It's not like you haven't sold the other 2 houses to do this one type of thing, What's the thing that most excites you about what you do?
Our team, honestly. And I know that might seem a little cliche when people say that, but visiting the ship, right, is a special endeavor in and of itself. And our team make it very special. There's just a nice, welcoming environment. They're very supportive. they're ready to take on new adventures and challenges. And, I say to them and they'll say back to me, right? The day we say we can't do it any better than we're currently doing it is the day that will be done. And
Yeah.
we are constantly looking for new ways. So when we have meetings to discuss what do the next 180 days look out, what does the next year look like for us, and we're coming up with these ideas, that is really exciting for us. And whether an individual works in the spa or they work in retail or they work in food and beverage, and they can come up with these really great experiences that we can offer to our residents, I think that's the most special thing.
But is it fatiguing trying to find new things?
It's not. Even think about, well, even particularly since COVID, right? So Japan, for example, we visited Japan last year. And when we return, we will be in a different time of year. It'll be a vastly different experience for our residents. And
So beautiful.
yeah, right. And it's like Japan's a country, and we were talking about how large the United States is, but even think of Japan, which comparatively is small, but there's so many different regions to explore and experiences to have. I mean, from Okinawa up to, Hakone, right? Like there's just so vastly different, and how you travel there and what we can offer when we're there, it's great, right? We're thinking, gosh, when there are, different geopolitical conflicts going on, once those are resolved, where we can go there. We're already thinking to the future of what's going to be available to us.
Can you just bring to life to me what like a balmy summer afternoon is like on board the world?
So I can, because we were in Southeast Asia last year, and so it was in fact very balmy, but beautiful. So sailing out of Vietnam, you might have individuals that are having lunch at the pool bar and grill. It's the summertime, so people generally then have their grandkids on board. So you might have, if it's not during the quiet, period of time, you might have some kids swimming in the pool. The poker players might be having a game down in the Coliseo. We may have a lecturer that will be talking about our next port of call. So that could be in Hanoi, or say we are heading towards Hong Kong. So we will have a speaker that will be talking about perhaps
And will you find speakers locally? How do you coordinate with? Will you fly people in from sort of all over the world, or it's
both.
a combination?
Actually, yeah. Yeah.
And then have you got so you're basically working like to some extent with local guides in the way like a Black Tomato or like a one of these travel design companies would.
So we do a little bit of both, right? And utilizing technology. So now we definitely say, like, because there are some of our residents who say, look, I've done these tours by locals, for example, right? And they're like, I'd like to do that. So we say, okay, those are available to you if you want to book those. But we also have operators and we have tours that we would offer to you that we've vetted and we know what they're doing. But these other individuals we know are highly rated. So we would tell you, if you want to do those, these are the individuals that we would recommend to you. We have a concierge team on board as well, so they can help you plan anything that you'd like to do. So if you decide, I'd like to go see more of Vietnam while I'm here,
Yeah.
our concierge team and our travel coordinator will help you plan your trip and then help you to rejoin the ship wherever you might decide to do that.
And I guess people are just sitting on their balconies with each other, probably, visiting. I'm sure that everyone spends a lot of time with each other. Did they not?
It's really like however you would live your life. So, people might.
You can't live on a ship and not know all your neighbors' names.
They know each other, of course, but you might just head to your apartment,
They don't
watch TV. Oh no, they do. They do. It's a very tight-knit community. Let me say this, it's as tight as you'd like it to be, right? Because like with any community, you get out of it exactly what you put into it, and you're not forced, of course, to participate in any of the events.
I just think it's quite an attractive way to live. I'm into it.
Oh, beautiful.
I honestly, we do a lot of work for NEOM, the big in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Well, the area the size of Belgium.
We'd love to go visit it, by the way.
Well, I go quite often.
Do you?
And
yeah,
everybody, no matter of status or where you sit in the hierarchy, lives basically in identical, like effectively porter cabins. It's kind of like living in like an oil rig. It's just, and it's beautiful. Like there are people's like kids running around, and like that everyone sort of pops into everyone's houses in the evening, and like you can't drink there, so like actually everyone's found quite wholesome ways of sort of enjoying themselves,
right.
engaging with each other. through activity and through genuine, quite heartfelt social connections that like often just don't exist in fast-paced, stressful kind of, urban environments or places that aren't frankly closed communities. So, I sort of remember telling my partner, I was like, I could definitely like live like this. And she was like, I just don't, I think we're not doing that.
One of the beauty of the world is that you have residents, and if they want to have lunch with one of their friends, there is someone on board, right? So it's truly that you never have to be alone unless you want to be alone. And if you do, then of course you have that. So
Yeah, I guess, in a way, is it really that different to like an apartment? But, I don't know why in my head I feel like people would necessarily be more social just because they're on board a ship versus just living in the same apartment block, in which often people don't know who lives in the door next to them, let alone the floor below them. So
it isn't.
I'm sure it's more than that, but it doesn't, maybe not as extreme as in my head. I'm just assuming that everyone lives in sort of one, because with a commune-esque mentality, but...
No, I think it's a very social group of individuals, and there's a knitting group, and they're called the Witty Knitters, and the book club, right? And they have their WhatsApp groups, and then they have different groups that they with, again, right, the communities within the community. So there's always these like Venn diagrams of the overlap of the different groups. We have a beautiful wine program on board. We have over 15,000 bottles of wine. So we have a Medusa Club that's actually on board, which they're around the world, but ours is very special. And we have over 1,200 labels. And we have, programs that will take you on overland journeys to different vineyards. Last year, we had our own barrel of wine.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Annoying question. Wine has complex tariffs and or import tax structures,
right?
Which can vary from price per percentage per bottle versus percentage of perceived value from one country to the next. As in, like,
how do we ship it there?
Yeah,
the logistics.
Are they effectively a product of designed to be sold in the Bahamas and then put on the ship? Or
no? So even for other cruise lines, so most, so for us, we ship out of the United States, but we also have a warehouse in Europe.
Okay.
And then the beauty for us is when we're traveling around the world, we can purchase wine wherever we are. So, when we're in Australia, we will head down to the Hunter Valley, right? When we're in France, we go to Bordeaux and we go to the vineyards and we meet with them. When we're in California, we head to Napa and we're experiencing, the vineyard and meeting the vintners right there and experiencing it. And so then, having our own bottle, it was called The Journey, bottled for our residents and then given out to them, was really something special.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You had your own wine made?
We did.
Oh, that's the dream. I quite want to live like this. So we always ask our guests the same outro questions.
Okay.
The first is, what would you change about your industry? You've been in the world of cruising for a while. What would you change about it?
I would, and this is a big request, but I would change how crew is able to travel around to the ships. There's special visas that crew can get, but it can still be very difficult for crew to travel or to step off into different countries. And so that would be what I would change. I would make the ease of crew.
Why is that difficult? Why is that harder?
Well, because you have different regulations from states to countries to territories. So to have that all be uniform would be a very heavy lift.
Is it the admin around it, or is it just they actually can't?
They actually can't.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just depending on what visa you might have. You might have to fly to a different country to then fly to your home country, right? And for individuals that have been away from their family from 6 months, they really want to get home.
And like a sort of cruise visa.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. But and that sort of exists now, but almost like a heightened one, right?
Yeah.
That they could just travel just with ease to make sure that they could get home faster.
What most concerns you about the world that we're leaving future generations?
I think I think right now we live in a world where I assume that we're close to the same age, but who knows? But I remember growing up and just having individuals with really great vision. And I feel that there's a little bit of lack of that. I'd like to see, and for my own children, I'd like to see these figureheads of people that have really optimistic vision for the world, right? That, they really have a plan to make the world a better place.
I think it's interesting. What is better and I feel as a human race, we have, assumed that technology is better because it makes life easier and it removes friction and it, creates a level of convenience that we consider to be like the ultimate luxury. But now we pay premiums to do things the slower or the older way
Yeah.
that aren't as mass produced and that aren't as digitized or self-service orientated or as anonymous or as, impersonal. And so I think we need to personally just change how we frame progress.
I think it has to be a tool, right? I think technology is this really wonderful thing. We will continue to see it expand, but I think it has to be a tool. I think the personalization of it and people using it needs to be emphasized, right?
That's what I think is interesting about the world, like the floating world, not the world, is that I just really do see in a lot of the high net worth or ultra high net worth work that we do, this just propensity to invest in community orientated endeavors. And I guess when you combine that with the spirit of adventure that is obviously true of anyone who wishes to travel the world and spend healthier older years
Right.
doing things that allow them to enjoy their retirement or their wealth, you got like a sort of perfect recipe, don't you?
We do.
It's great. If you had to give up your job tomorrow, I presume you wouldn't go back to New York and become a lawyer. What would you do?
Well, not that it would be the worst thing, but if I had to leave the industry altogether and I could do anything, I would make movies.
Would you?
I would.
Which part of the movie making process?
Oh, I would love to write the script and then like the cinematography. I mean, I see myself more as I don't have the skills to do it. So I'm definitely probably more in the director producer seat perhaps to bring it all together. But
Okay.
That's what I would want to do.
And what's the most exciting thing for you in the next 5 years?
I think where technology and sustainability is going to take us. In our industry, I think the fuels that are going to be developed and the technology around the fuels will be some of the most interesting things to come out of the industry. And I think there's going to be massive leaps over the next 5 years. I think even what we've seen in the past, let's say 5 years since 2020, the advances have been so fast that it's just been mind-boggling as compared to what we would have seen in the 70s or 80s. And I think that will continue. So I think the next 5 years will almost be what 10 years used to be.
Yeah.
And I think efforts for sustainability will be pushed. And I think the technology that goes along with that will be incredible.
Okay, great. This is a bit of an ancillary question, but how do you deal with pushback around sustainability? Because it's obviously not an industry that is famous for being particularly sustainable.
The cruise industry itself is very focused on sustainability. I think it's one of the aspects about cruise that perhaps hasn't had a very good shake. But for the world itself, our residents are very conscious of the fact that they are privileged to travel the world in this manner. Our team and our crew on board are very conscious that while we are sailing around to these beautiful places around the world, it is our responsibility to ensure that we're doing it in a responsible manner. The world, we've been at the forefront of sustainability. So, we were one of the first ships to, adopt to low sulfur diesel fuel, which now is not at the forefront. Everyone is moving on to others, and as will we. But we always pride ourselves on being at the top of that and to ensure that we are putting in technology and making changes that will assist in the sustainability.
Jessica, thank you so much.
Thank
It's been
you.
an absolute joy.
Come visit us sometime.
Thanks so much for listening. This has been What the Lux. You can find us on socials at Much Reform and drop us any questions or comments on Twitter using the hashtag #WhatTheLux. Or if you're a luxury brand looking for strategy and design that goes beyond the banal, get in touch via hello@muchreform.com and chat to one of our consultants.